And how you doing, everybody? Vasu Vaddiparty here, along with Charlie O. It's July 9th, 2021. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast for this Friday as we preview the weekend of baseball as we hit the All-Star break. The NBA basketball has a 2-0 series lead for the Phoenix Suns, and then we have a hockey champion, NHL Stanley Cup. And also, if you watched some of the baseball last night, we'll talk about young Daniel Camarena and the San Diego Padres, who made a miraculous comeback, a first one of its kind. We'll tell you what it was since 1974 and the first pitcher since 1898. What did he do? We'll tell you about that as we go along. But right now, you can catch us on Facebook and YouTube Live right here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Monday at 3 Eastern, Thursday at noon Eastern, and Friday right now at 1 Eastern, all on the East Coast time zones, Facebook and YouTube. If you missed any of it, find that logo in the upper right-hand corner, download and subscribe, rate and review anywhere you get your podcasts. And here we are, Make the Money and Run review of the week and a preview of the weekend going into next week. Charlie, how are you?
I'm good, Vasu. And yourself?
I'm doing fine. I just had a nice conversation with some NFL people regarding training camp coming up. And so we'll see. A lot of people, especially where I live in the Bay Area, are high on the 49ers. So we'll have a lot to talk about when football rolls around and training camp happens, because as we know in the wagering world, as well as our world, our local world in the Bay Area, there is nothing like NFL football. There's always a story. There's always a point spread to talk about. There's always a wager to talk about. So we'll see. They
always get high on the 49ers, and then they have to get high after the season ends because they got high on the 49ers.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right, let's get to the NBA. What a game. The first two games of this NBA series. Milwaukee 4-222 for Game 3 on Sunday night. That'll be 8 o'clock Eastern instead of 9 o'clock on Sunday night on ABC. Phoenix leads 2-0 in this series after a 118-108 victory over the Milwaukee Bucks. Phoenix covers the 4.5. They go over the point spread. As you can see, the point spread has gone up. The total has gone up since Game 1 and Game 2, and then a 13-point victory. We haven't been on since Monday. So Tuesday night, game 1, 118-105, Phoenix with the win. Chris Paul had 32 on Tuesday. Devin Booker was outstanding last night. They were down by 9 was Phoenix early in the game, and they turned it around, ended up having an 11-point lead at the half, and then just kind of cruised 10 after 3. And then midway through the fourth quarter, the Bucks made a run, and then Phoenix put it away with Booker and Crowder, and even Ayton got in the act a little bit, and Chris Paul. Couple of skittish turnovers there toward the end, making the point spread bettors nervous. I think the game was in hand, but I know the point spread bettors were a little nervous of that game. Charlie, your impression, 2-0 Phoenix, obviously the better defense, even though Milwaukee was the best defensive rated team during the year, and coming into the finals, they were the best defensive rated team too. But here's Phoenix coming in with really a well-balanced squad, and they're taking it to Milwaukee, even though Giannis was great last night.
Two impressions that I come away with, Vasu. Number one, it's a make or miss league. We always talk about that, and that's kind of we talk about that and then we kind of just buzz it off. But last night, the Suns, 20 for 40 from three-point land. We don't think about them being a three-point shooting team, but last night they won that game because they shot the three-point basket and hit it. And they ran away with that because they did hit the three-pointer. And that really was the thing that sank the Bucks ship last night, is because they couldn't stop Phoenix from hitting the three-pointer. My other takeaway is that it's like the rest of the Bucks team has gone to sleep because Giannis is back on the floor. Everybody stepped up when Giannis was gone. And now it's like, okay, our leader's back on the floor. He's going to lead us, and he's done terrific. I mean, would anybody have expected him to play the way he's playing after having to had to miss those games with the injury? He's come back, looks like he's never injured, but everybody around him has gone, okay, he's back. Well, you can't do that. This is the finals, for heaven's sakes. And I'm really disappointed for him that the rest of his team is not standing up and playing when he has made such a valiant effort to come back and make it into the finals and do what he's doing. And I think it's extremely disappointing for not only the fans in Milwaukee, but for everybody who watches the NBA, because I think we expected way more when he got back on the court. I think we expected a better competition than we're getting.
No doubt about it. But the fact is that Milwaukee is there. They have a pretty good squad, but Middleton could not shoot again last night. That's been a repeated story throughout these playoffs for Chris Middleton. He just hasn't shot the ball well at all, and he's better than what he's showing. And Drew Holiday played better defense last night on Chris Paul. They got the ball out of his hands a little bit more. Booker started off slow, but he came on in the second and third quarters, and then late. Boy, he's such a good shooter when he's in rhythm. And I just he got hit across the face again. You thought that nose was going to be affected, but Devin Booker, Jay Crowder started off great. I mean, they only made 2 of 12 from 2-point land to start the game, but they were in the game because they made 6 of 8 or something to start from 3-point land. And yeah, they may not be known as 3-point shooters, but you get Crowder and Booker and you give them set shots, and they're there right there. And then DeAndre Ayton in the middle didn't have a great game, but he ended up being effective toward the end. In fact, that 3-point play at the end of the first half probably helped Phoenix gain a little bit more momentum, because at 8 down at the half, you still have a shot, but now you give up that basket with 2 seconds left, and it's an 11-point game, and then you're fighting uphill in the third and fourth quarter. So Milwaukee will have to figure it out. Going back to the Deer District, going back to Fiserv Forum out there in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I don't know what they can do right now. The only thing they have going for them right now is it's a home game, and that Giannis is playing well. But the fact is that Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, Brook Lopez, after his game 7 against his game 7 against Atlanta, where he had 33 points, he has not shown up in this series at all. And they're suffering for it. And then they don't have anybody on the bench. Connaughton was okay yesterday. Actually, he was pretty good yesterday, but he and Bryn Forbes are the only 2 guys because Bobby Portis didn't contribute at all. He started in the 2 games that Giannis was out right now. So what does Milwaukee have to do? I mean, they're obviously going to have to D up, but what are they going to have to do for being more effective than they were?
Well, they just have to. I think at this point, they just have to find one guy to step up and move in alongside Giannis. Middleton, Holiday, Lopez, somebody that can just move in and have a big game, and they can rotate that around. It does. I mean, they have that advantage. It doesn't have to be just one guy, but somebody has to step up and take some of that pressure off and score. I mean, again, they have to score, because that's what they're missing. I mean, yesterday they only lost by 10 points. Now, I mean, you go, oh, well, 10 points. Well, this team is capable of making that 10 points up in a flash, but they also have to get in the game. Vasu, I think that whole game was defined at the end of the first half when the Suns made that incredible 10-pass possession that with Ayton, making that incredible layup. I mean, how can you let that happen? It's the freaking NBA, and you let a team have a 10-pass possession. Excuse me. That was phenomenal. I mean, I'm looking at that thing. I ran that thing back multiple times because I'm going, this is beauty. It's basketball. It's basketball art at that point. And you can't call yourself a defensive team when you allow that to happen. So they have to buckle down, remember that they play defense, and then they've got to have somebody step up in the offense. And that's going to be on the coaches too. They're going to have to design some things to get somebody to step up in that offense. Then I also think they're going to have to find one player off the bench, one more player off the bench that can help. Doesn't have to be a bunch. Just add 4 to 6 more points off the bench.
Find somebody who's shooting in shoot around, and whoever makes the most shots in shoot around will be the 8th guy off the bench, because right now they're not getting any production. Connaughton had 4 3-pointers yesterday, and he kept them in the game. But you can't rely on Pat Connaughton to keep you in the game. And Giannis I think he had one stretch of 16 straight points. But they need shooting. Is it Monty Williams out coaching Mike Budenholzer, or is it just Milwaukee not making shots, Charlie?
You know what? Well, I'm really high on Monty Williams.
Oh yeah, I am too.
And I think it is, but I'm not a Budenholzer hater. You know, there's a lot of people out there that are. And I think people forget that he had a lot of success with very little talent in Atlanta. And they booted him out of there like he was the problem in Atlanta. And he wasn't, you know, he just didn't have any players. And Atlanta's success now is that they've added players and things have stepped up for them. I think he's doing, I mean, his job was on the line this year, and he got that team to step up, and he's got this
Shockingly,
team.
it was on the line.
What's that?
Shockingly, it was on the line.
Yes. And he's gotten this team into the finals. They're not into the finals by a fluke.
No.
So he's a good coach, and he can figure out what's going on. I think people look at him and he's got the 5 o'clock shadow and he looks like he just came out of the bar, you know, and I think people look at it and go, geez, this guy's a coach, but he's a good coach and he can figure out what's going on out there. He can bring that team along. So they're not done, but it's tough. It's tough. Only 4 teams in the history of the NBA have come back to win the NBA finals after being down 2-0, the most recent being the Cavaliers in 2016 against the Warriors. So they've got an uphill battle. Can they do it? Yes. Will it be a fight? Well, they've got to step up and really show who they are in this next game.
If it's a fight, then they better show up, because if it's a fight, they better learn how to fight them, because right now Phoenix is doing everything that they want to do. Phoenix covered both games. Both games were, I think, ended up at 4.5 yesterday, 216, I think was the total. And then 5 on Tuesday, which Phoenix easily covered. They won by 13, and that game went over too. That was 219.5 on Tuesday night. So the odds makers are seeing this, and now they're bringing the totals up to 222. So do we see more offense on Sunday night, this 222 total, and Milwaukee favored by 4? You think that's a little high right now, Charlie?
I think it's high. I think it's high because I think one of the things that Budenholzer will do is try to get the team to play more defense. I think one of the things that they'll try to do is I think they'll try to shut down the 3-point shooting by the Suns to try to help themselves stay into it more, try to force the Suns into more mid-range shooting. Now, that's difficult because the Suns are a funny team. You take away their threes, they'll say, okay, that's fine. We'll shoot the mid-range. And that's been one of the highlights of their success all season long. Okay, take away the 3, we'll shoot the mid-range. And the problem is when you do that to them, they hit the mid-range at a very high percentage. Yeah. So, and they'll hit the mid-range and then they'll make the 3 the old-fashioned way, because Chris Paul, Booker, they know how to shoot the 3 and get fouled as well. So that's not always a philosophy that works, but I think that's what they'll try to do.
Hey, everybody learning to play basketball from 10 to 18 years old now, it's okay to take 2 points every once in a while. You don't have to shoot threes all the time in the NBA. All you got to do is look at the Phoenix Suns, because they were being drawn off when they were successful with the 3-point shot. Then they were being drawn off the line. They were able to get into that 10 to 15 feet range and be able to make shots. Chris Paul, by the way, Mikal Bridges had an unbelievable game yesterday. He had his first 3 threes, but he drove to the hoop. He got fouled. He got baskets. He was the one that made the free throws at the end of the game. He's about 80%. By the way, one other thing, everybody, that you should know in terms of point spreads, the Phoenix Suns have the best shooting percentage from the free throw line in any NBA playoffs history. They're 87% from the line. Can you imagine what some of these teams would do with 87% free throw shooting, Charlie, in the NBA, the way free throws are these days? And I know Giannis has his problems with the free throws, but they've got guys on that team that can shoot free throws, but they're not getting the line enough, and I think that's part of the problem. Milwaukee dominated on the inside to start the game. They were going after the offensive boards. PJ Tucker had himself a pretty good first quarter. They had themselves a pretty good first quarter, but they let Phoenix get back into it. And when they get hot, they get hot. And we saw Phoenix and the way they played, and defensively, they're right there. So you just got to think that Milwaukee definitely in trouble, but they're going home. They're very successful at home. They've got a great home record. and those fans will be ready to go for Milwaukee this weekend. So it'll be an interesting game to see on Sunday. Again, the line Milwaukee as we speak on Friday afternoon on the East Coast, morning on the West Coast. Milwaukee -4 and 222 the total. Phoenix with a 2-0 series lead. Game 3 on Sunday in Milwaukee. Game 4 will be next Wednesday, so they'll have 2 days off in between before they come back to Game 4. Now I've heard scenarios, Charlie, about this. Do you think Phoenix will come back home for a day and then fly back? Because I've heard teams do that. Do that with the travel, with the charters and everything. They've had 3 days off back in the old days. I remember the Lakers would fly home from Sacramento on a Sunday when they didn't have to be back in Sacramento for Game 2 until Thursday.
That's the reason I say no is I don't think they will because of the time zones issue. And also, frankly, just because of COVID issues right now. COVID is flaring again because of this Delta variant. Gosh, I can't believe we're talking COVID again.
Yeah, well.
But this Delta variant it has caused some things, and I think basically they'll just bubble up there in Milwaukee and stay. The reason we're having this kind of long slide between Game 3 and Game 4 is because of the All-Star game. You've got the home run derby on Monday. You've got the All-Star game on Tuesday. So you've got that slide in there because of the All-Star game. But no, I don't think they will. I think that would be too much travel. Plus the fact, if you've got anybody that has any kind of muscle-related tweaks or pains, flying is going to cause swelling, and they don't want that.
It'll be interesting. So Game 3 Sunday, Game 4 Wednesday. Of course, the baseball All-Star game next week. We had hockey that ended up on Wednesday. That's why the NBA series started on Tuesday. I thought they were going to start Wednesday, but they have a pretty good relationship. They don't play on the same day as the NHL Stanley Cup Finals as well, too. All right. Hi to David Andrews. Hi to everybody on Facebook Live and YouTube Live as well. Don't forget, if you missed any of it, including our worldwide famous unsponsored picks segment that'll come up at the end of the show, last 10 minutes of the show. We're going to take a break right now. We're going to talk a lot of baseball here as we wind down the official first half of the season towards the All-Star break. Some interesting matchups this weekend. And on Monday, we'll delve into the home run derby. And how far will Ohtani hit a ball on Monday night? We'll see. We'll talk about that on Monday, but we'll get you all the reviews of baseball from the previous week and preview the weekend's baseball game. Back in 30 seconds. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast for Friday, July 9th, 2021. Vasu and Charlie here with you. See you in 30. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasu Vaddiparty, Charlie O here. We're here Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and then we drop our podcast minutes. You can get to us on social media as well. We all have Facebook pages. We have a Make the Money and Run Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter at MTMAR Podcast, and then email us anything you want us to know about point spreads, lines, any games that you want us to preview or talk about, MTMAR Podcast at gmail.com. Multiple ways to get a hold of us and tell us we're so wrong or you love the show. And even if you don't like the show, that's fine. We'd love to hear from you. Anyway, all right, let's get to the National League here. Lots of things going on in the National League. First, let's get the lines out there. Chicago going to play in about an hour. They've got the St. Louis Cardinals. Big doings with the Cubs and Cardinals. Kyle Hendricks going to try and snap this 11 out of 12 game losing streak the Cubs have. Wade LeBlanc, haven't heard that name in a while, but he's with St. Louis. The Cardinals are still 9 games back of the Cubs. 147 and 8th the total. I'm really looking at St. Louis here because the Cubs have been playing like garbage the last 12 games. Atlanta 119 at Miami. Don't underestimate Miami. They play Atlanta well at home. The Mets and Taijuan Walkers had a great year at home. High favorite, 195 against JT Brubaker, the best pitcher for the Pirates right now. Milwaukee 116. Eric Lauer and Wade Miley going 9 the total there. Good game last night. 2 division battles right there. Cincinnati in second place behind Milwaukee. A tough game for Cincinnati to lose. They had bases loaded, Charlie, in that game like 3 different times with nobody out, and they got no runs out of it, any of those situations. And in a 5-3 game that they lost in the 8th inning, that hurts. San Francisco coming off their 1 win out of 3 against St. Louis. Take on the Washington Nationals. We'll get to the Washington Nationals and Padres in a second because there's a story there. There's about 3 stories there. 1 bad for me, 1 good for a pitcher named Daniel Camarena, and 1 good for the Padres and their fans last night. And then in the last game of the night in the National League, David Price, they're going to have to rely on him because now we're not going to see Trevor Bauer for a while. And Clayton Kershaw went on the injured list a couple of days ago. Taylor Widener going to pitch for the Arizona Diamondbacks. 8.5 the total. And even David Price out of the bullpen, 270 the total. Moving on to the American League here, the White Sox, 134 on the road at Baltimore. Baltimore's having a horrible year. Jorge Lopez, 2-8, I believe. Dallas Keuchel going for the White Sox. White Sox have increased their lead. I think it's 9, isn't it like 8 games now over Cleveland? Something like that. I haven't looked at the standings yet. Tampa Bay, favorite at home against Toronto. Alex Manoah, if you haven't seen him pitch, he's really good. He's a good rookie. And it might be the way to go tonight for Toronto with Shane McClanahan, the left-hander, going for Tampa. They're 3 back of the Boston Red Sox. Cleveland Indians snapped their losing streak. They beat the Royals last night late. Tristan McKenzie against Brad Keller, 138, 9.5 for the Indians. The Oakland A's, who got a victory in Houston, they salvaged the 3-game sweep potentially. They got a victory at Houston. They beat Lance McCullers Jr. with Frankie Montas, who I'm still not sold on, but he looked awfully good yesterday afternoon. 129 at Texas. Cole Irvin, Jordan Lyles going for the Rangers. When will Joey Gallo be traded? When will Kyle Gibson be traded? Adolis Garcia fighting his way for Rookie of the Year. And then New York Houston 136 with Jake Odorizzi against the Yankees. Nestor Cortez, that's a bullpen game for the Yankees. Jake Odorizzi having a pretty good comeback as a pitcher for the Houston Astros right now after a couple of down years. And then finally, in the American League, Kenta Maeda, 240 favorite for the Minnesota Twins. Matt Manning, pretty good rookie pitcher. I don't know if I'd lay 240 on Minnesota, Charlie, but Minnesota 240 and 9.5 with Kenta Maeda and Matt Manning. Casey Mize had a good game the other day too. So those 2 young guys for Detroit going well. Alex Cobb, Marco Gonzalez. Seattle Mariners not getting any respect. They're a home underdog again with the Angels. 120 was the line for the Angels, 8.5. Alex Cobb, Marco Gonzalez. It's going to be a big crowd in Seattle this weekend with the Japanese contingency in Seattle to come see Shohei Ohtani. So I'm expecting, talking to people in Washington this week, they're expecting big crowds this weekend as we wind into the All-Star break week for the Angels to come in with Ohtani and the Japanese crowd there, Charlie. So what are you looking at in the National League? Let's keep it to the National League first. What are you looking in the National League?
Well, I always, even though the Cubs aren't playing well, I always watch that the Cardinals-Cubs series just because there's a natural rivalry there. It can get interesting just because of that. And frankly, I'm watching the Cubs right now, Vasu, trying to figure out who they're going to trade.
Right.
Chris Bryant continues to be the name most likely to go, probably has the most tradable contract because his contract expires at the end of the season and is really amenable to go. Everyone says that he is very open to free agency, kind of likes the idea of free agency. He liked what happened to Mookie Betts, although he's not going to get Mookie Betts. But he sees the potential of a big payday for him, and it would be his last big payday, and he knows that. So he's looking at cashing in for himself in a way that it goes. So I'm interested to see what might happen there. There was another one that I was looking at in the National League here. Hang on.
Milwaukee, Cincinnati.
Well, I always watch Cincinnati, but I'm not sure that's that interesting of a series. Probably, yeah. And then the Nationals and Giants. I'm curious. I'm watching the Giants because everybody has said the Giants aren't for real.
Right.
And, we've wondered whether the Giants are for real. And we've wondered whether pitching's going to hold up and all those kind of things. And it'll be interesting to see. The Nationals are one of those for real teams. They are a real competition team, and the Giants have been sliding, and they are at home where they traditionally play well. They've got a home field advantage, literally, in that ballpark. So it'll be interesting to see how they play. I want to see what they do this weekend going into the All-Star break. I think they need to do well because they're falling behind, and they can't keep this slide. They've got to pick up and gain some momentum. So I think this is a big weekend for them. I mean, certainly if they have a bad weekend, they're not out of it. But I think they need to gain momentum because you have a break, and when you have a break and you're falling behind, it just makes it that much harder to gain momentum after a break.
One more game we didn't mention. We don't have a starting pitcher for the Padres tonight, but Kyle Freeland's going to go for the Rockies. No line yet out on that game. Check our social media pages for our later afternoon picks. If we'll have later afternoon picks as well too, but we're also on social media, and we can we will do some posting for games this weekend, both today and tomorrow, and probably on Sunday too. Charlie and I will have some picks before the game starts, so before 10 o'clock, Charlie, tomorrow, and before 10 o'clock on Sunday. So let's make sure on the West Coast that we do that as well too. I'm interested to see how Washington recovers from last night. So here's the story from last night. The Washington Nationals, Yu Darvish and Max Scherzer. First of all, I probably would have taken the under if you had picked that game anyway going into San Diego. Darvish did not have anything. It was 8-0 Washington, and your boy had the game too at plus 136 for the Washington Nationals. 8-0 with Max Scherzer at the plate, or Max Scherzer pitching on the mound, shutting them down, and then all of a sudden a couple of runs come across. Daniel Camarena, the story of the night in San Diego, gets called up from AAA. It's 8-2. He gives up the last 2 runs for the Nationals, a 2-run home run to Turner, who's having a very good year, by the way. That's the second home run of the game, 17 home runs for Trey Turner. So Daniel Camarena with 2 outs and the bases loaded. Jace Tingler doesn't want to go to the bullpen that early. It's only the 4th inning. Gets a 0-2 pitch, like right above the shoe tops. Not a bad pitch by Scherzer, but he just drops the bat head on it and hits a grand slam. A relief pitcher who just gets called up the same day, gets his first major league hit, and it's a grand slam. And now it's 8-6. They end up tying the game at 8-8. And then Trent Grisham walks it off. The Padres have not come back from an 8-run deficit since 1974. It's only happened 4 times in Major League Baseball history. The last time the Padres did it was it's been done before, but 4 times in Padres history where they've come back from 8 down. But 1974 was the last time it happened. Daniel Camarena, not only did he get called up from AAA, he's from San Diego. He played in the Aflac High School game in Patco. He nearly missed hitting a home run when he was a high schooler in that Aflac game. He hits a home run. It's a grand slam. It's his first hit by a pitcher to have his first hit be a grand slam since 1898 for a guy named Bill Gullaby. I don't know what team it was, probably the Red Legs, because those were the only teams at that time. But Bill Gullaby in 1898 was the last time that this accomplished. His family was in the stands. It was a great moment. I appreciated the moment, but the fact the Nationals lost really says something, and I'll be interested to see how they come in to this weekend against San Francisco. That hurt them because they now are at 44 losses. They fall all the way to tied for 3rd with Atlanta, 42-44. And then Philadelphia with their 2 wins out of 3 against the Cubs. They're 42-43. They're 5 back in the loss column of the Mets right now in that Eastern Division. And even Miami in last place is 8.5 back right now. But how about that story for Daniel Camarena, the San Diego Padres, a hometown kid, mom and brother, family, friends, all there in the stands. He drops his bat hit on a future Hall of Famer, hits a grand slam, first major league hit, first by pitcher to get a major league hit to be a grand slam since 1898. So it's that 122 years since that happened, 123 years since that's happened, Charlie. I can't describe it any better than that. It hurt me, but I can't describe it any better than that.
Vasu, I saw the kid interviewed on SportsCenter this morning, and he said he reached down, and you're right, it was a good pitch. That thing was coming in. It was diving low. He just reached down, shoe top, put the wood on it, and and in a ballpark where the ball doesn't carry. You know Petco as well as anybody because you down there. And
it was warm down there, though.
But he knocks it out. He said that he just blacked out. He said he doesn't even remember getting to base. And he said he comes around and he gets to home plate and he starts to go back to the dugout. And he said then the weight of it just hit him. He realized that he had just hit a grand slam, and then it hit him that he had just hit a grand slam off Max Scherzer.
Yeah.
And he said then it dawned on him that 2 days ago he was on a bus traveling from Albuquerque back to El Paso, which, by the way, folks, is a miserable trip. If you think, just look on a bus. Go to your map and look at that trip, and he was on a bus. So, I mean, what a story. Only in baseball does that happen. No
doubt about it. Really interesting to see how this took place.
What a wonderful story.
Yeah, it was a great story. Except Max Scherzer gave up a grand slam to a pitcher that he shouldn't have given up, and it was 8-2, and I was still feeling pretty good about it. But that's great
for Vasu.
Yeah, not great for Vasu, but good for him. And I'll be interested to see how the Padres have the Rockies this weekend. Rockies won a couple of games in Arizona. They're playing a little bit better, but they're still the Rockies, so it'll be a long way to go for Colorado to come back. So San Diego should have a good weekend this weekend. They still throw the ball around too much. A lot of those 8 runs, 2 of those runs came on errors by the infield and the outfield. They're just having a tough time filling the ball, and that's why they're not going to be good this year, Charlie. Pound on my table, the Padres are overrated. They're not coming back into this division. The Giants and Dodgers will run this division, and maybe the Padres will get the second wild card team based on how the Central Division's going, and everybody under 500 in the East probably have 2 wild cards coming out of the National League West. The Dodgers got a win yesterday in Miami. They salvaged a 4-game series by winning the last game behind Julio Urias. They'll get Arizona tonight, as we said, with David Price. In the interleague game, Boston and Philadelphia, a pretty good matchup this weekend. In fact, I just had it. The Fox games this weekend will be tomorrow, the 10th? The Rangers and Athletics on Fox Sports 1 in the afternoon. And then the 3 games for Baseball Night in America will be Yankees, Astros, Reds, Brewers, and the Cardinals and Cubs, which I'll be working at from a studio somewhere near Monterey, California, hopefully out of this Northern California heat to be down there in Monterey at some point. But that's the schedule for the weekend. I'm interested in, obviously, Cubs, Cardinals, because I'm working the game tomorrow. So I've been keeping up. The Cubs are horrible right now. I was talking to some people in the Midwest yesterday, Charlie, about the Cubs, and this losing streak has made them into sellers. And I had heard that there's a rumor that the San Francisco Giants are very interested in Craig Kimbrell as a closer, and that he may be available in the Ricketts family with all that money that they're not spending for the team. They thought it was going to be a rebuilding year to begin with. That Craig Kimbrell, Chris Bryant, maybe even Jason Hayward, a couple other guys on that team, Wilson Contreras, all trade bait. Some of the pitching that might be available there as well too. Although the Craig Kimbrell story would be very interesting for me in terms of the San Francisco Giants, because boy, if they had somebody to take, I'm not sold on Tyler Rogers, I'm not sold on Jake McGee. Craig Kimbrell would come in and solidify that bullpen and slide them back to the 6th and 7th and 8th innings. Then Gabe Kapler can pull a starting pitcher out even earlier now, like he's been known to. So just see that. So the Dodgers series I'll be interested in. The Mets, I'm interested in the Mets because they somehow are keeping themselves in first place. And the what's the other one I was looking at? Atlanta, Miami, and so forth. The American League, the White Sox have a big lead in the Central. Baltimore's terrible. Tampa Bay, I want to see how well they can keep up with Boston right now. Boston's red hot. Houston, New York, obviously we remember that from 2019 with the Jose Altuve deal and the Aroldis Chapman deal for the American League pennant there. And then in the interleague game, Boston, Philadelphia will be an interesting game tonight. Vince Velasquez, Garrett Richards, Phillies took 2 out of 3 from the Cubs. Red Sox still maintain the lead in first place, Charlie. So where do you take it from there from a baseball standpoint?
Well, I want to jump back to the Kimbrell thing for just a second. If San Francisco would pull the trigger on that, that would be a very interesting trade because Kimbrell has 1 more year on that contract. So that would be a big commitment on the Giants' part because that would be a commitment for next year as well, which would give them the most legitimate closer really that they have had since Rob Nin. maybe with since Romo as well, but give them a longer term situation than they've had in quite some time. So that would be interesting. I can see them doing that. Whether they have enough in the farm system to give back to the Cubs for that, because I think that's what the Cubs are looking for. The Cubs are going to be looking for prospects in return for that. I don't know. I should know because the AAA team is here, and their low A team is in San Jose. But frankly, because of the way everything ran last year with the farm systems, I really don't know about what they have in the system. But you have to think if there's rumors going on about that, there's some things out there that the Cubs might be interested in. As far as the American League, what I'm really watching this weekend, and probably for a different reason, Vasu, is I'm really watching that Astros-Yankees series. And the reason I'm watching it is twofold. One is I'm watching the Astros to see, just because they're entertaining. They really are. They're playing great baseball. They're playing Dusty Baker baseball, and Dusty Baker is one of my favorite people. I'm going to go a little aside. Our late producer, Gary Araki, who we miss terribly. Gary, when Dusty used to be the manager of the Giants, and back in the old Candlestick days, the manager's office was like a closet.
Yeah.
When we'd go in to get questions, Gary would get on the floor and crawl underneath the reporters to get the mic up to Dusty. And Dusty got to know Gary. And when Gary would get underneath there and crawl in, the first thing Dusty would do is look down and say, "Hey, Gary, how you doing?" and I got to love Dusty so much. But he's got that team playing great baseball, and he's got them playing Dusty baseball. Not that they don't use power, but he's also got them just hitting the ball and moving runners around, and I enjoy it to death. But I'm also watching the Yankees because I think this weekend, depending on how they play, is going to forecast what they're going to do coming up to the trade deadline, because they have decisions to make about whether they're going to be buyers or sellers. And I think this weekend may help determine what they're going to do. And with their record being what it is, I think it's iffy whether or not they're going to be buyers or sellers. Not that Hank Steinbrenner isn't willing to spend the money.
I'm not so sure about that. He always says he's not willing to spend the money like his dad did.
I don't think he's going to be his dad, but I think he's willing to spend some money if he thinks they're going to win. But I think it's iffy whether or not they're going to win or not. And if he doesn't think they're going to win, I think he'll sell. And then I think, in my opinion, if they sell, that dooms the tenure of Cashman. I don't think it necessarily dooms the future of Aaron Boone. It could doom his future depending on who they bring in to run the baseball operations, because somebody may have their own guy they want to bring in. Okay. And I think that would be unfair to Boone, because I don't think what's happening to the team right now in the field is Boone's fault. I think he's doing the best with the pieces that he has. But I really believe if the Yankees have to become sellers, Cashman's time is finally done, which should have been done probably 5 or 6 seasons ago. And I don't have anything against Cashman in particular. I just don't think he's done well running that organization for a while.
I'll be interested to see the Seattle Mariners this weekend. They are 8 games back in the division, but they're catching up to Oakland pretty quickly right now. Tampa Bay and Oakland are the two wild card leaders. Seattle right behind them, 3.5 back of Oakland in that division. What a game they had. Logan Gilbert, by the way, if you haven't seen Logan Gilbert pitch, he's their new phenom for he shut down the Yankees 4-0 yesterday. Little skirmish at the end. Even DJ LeMahieu got a little upset that he got hit with a pitch, and he never gets upset. And there was little words being talked about at the end. And when they play again in August back in New York, it'll be a series to see. So I'll be interested to see how Seattle continues to play. They're playing really well. I think they're ahead of schedule. The Indians are 7.5 back. They're 7 back in the loss column. They broke their 9-game losing streak yesterday. They're still sitting well behind the White Sox. Nobody in the Central really doing anything. Tampa Bay, 2 back in the loss column, 51 wins to the Red Sox 54. 54 and 34 for Boston, 51 and 36. I think the Giants still have the best record. Boston on their heels. They're 2 behind in the loss column as far as overall best record, but the Red Sox have lost 2 in a row. They got beaten by the Angels the last couple of days in Anaheim. So Angels kind of hot going in. The Red Sox not. They have Philadelphia coming in. So there'll be some interesting series going on as we get to the All-Star break. It's going to be really interesting to see how this all shakes out and who's who and who's doing what trade-wise and free agent-wise and everything that's coming up in the year. But I'm so happy to have baseball back in 2021 for a full story, not only from an employment standpoint, but just to have baseball back because we're talking about things that are really good at the All-Star break, talking about Shohei Ohtani, talking about the Houston Astros and what they're doing, whether it's legal or not. The A's are having a good year. The San Francisco Giants are having a good year. The Dodgers are injured right now. They're going to take Trevor Bauer merchandise off because of everything that's going on with him. They're going to have to figure out how to get another starting pitcher in their rotation. They probably need another bat right now. I think they may have gotten rid of too many outfielders. So we'll see how it goes. But it's all going to shake out. We'll have a full first half review on Monday on our 3 o'clock show, 12 o'clock on the West Coast right here on Facebook Live and on YouTube Live as well. And don't forget, you can download, subscribe anywhere you get. All right, before we take a break, I wanted to mention real quick a little bit on the Stanley Cup here, Charlie. Tampa Bay Lightning, back-to-back champions. I'm very happy. My Eastern team, the Tampa Bay Lightning, win the series 4-1. I think we probably figured it was going to be 5 games. But, boy, that game 4 must have been exciting in Montreal, the overtime victory that the Canadians had to keep the series alive at least for one more game. A 1-0 win on Game 5 on Wednesday. Talk about nervous nails, because if that thing goes 3-2, then anything can happen with a Game 6 back in Montreal. And the way that Montreal was skating, defensively looked pretty good. Carey Price, I think, just ran out of gas. And I think Tampa Bay just outskated them and kind of with a class act. And I really believe, and I know Casey's not listening right now, but I'm sure he'll hear about it. But I really believe that they were better than the Las Vegas Knights, and that they could have beaten Las Vegas in the Stanley Cup final. So that's my one take on hockey right now. But Tampa Bay wins the series. They're back-to-back champions. Let's go Blackhawks. Let's go Tampa for 3 in a row is all we can say about that. So it'll be interesting to see. But any final thoughts as we put the capper on hockey?
Vasu, I hadn't gotten to watch much hockey at all this season. I was able to catch the third period and the overtime of that game in Montreal that went into overtime. And I have to tell you, I had forgotten how much I love to watch hockey, especially Stanley Cup hockey, because when the Canadians got that double minor for the high stick,
right,
and had to fight off the penalty kill to end the third period, and then had 2 minutes and 47 seconds of penalty kill to fight off in sudden death overtime,
right,
and did it, and then win the game in sudden death overtime to force that game back to Tampa, which I'll talk about in just a second. I'm going, wow, I've got to watch more hockey. And I'm so glad hockey is going to be back on ESPN. Not that the coverage by NBC was bad. Don't get me wrong. I think NBC's coverage was fine, but it's going to be back on a sports-oriented network where more people are going to get to see it and see the excitement of it, because it's just darn exciting. It really is. And the one thing that I was really happy about the fact that the series wound back up in Tampa Bay is because they won the cup on home ice. And it's much more exciting to see the home team lift the cup on their home ice and have the home fans be able to enjoy seeing that happen. And that was exciting. And back-to-back champions. That doesn't happen very often in the NHL. So that was very exciting as well. So it reinvigorated me to this next season. I will be much more involved. But of course, it'll be easier for me to find but it will is reinvigorated me to follow the NHL, and this will probably surprise you, but I have always had a love for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know why. I have since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I got to go to Toronto and see the Leafs play back in the 70s, back in the old barn in Maple Leaf Gardens. And folks in Toronto, you and me, we are going to root the Leafs back into the playoffs. I don't know how we're going to do it, but somehow we're going to root the Leafs back into the playoffs, and somehow we're going to get them back into the Stanley Cup Finals. I know that's a big leap, but somehow we're going to do it.
Well, it'll be interesting. Toronto Maple Leafs lost that 3-1 series lead to Montreal. Montreal eventually won their division outright, ended up getting in the Stanley Cup final. But the Tampa Bay Lightning, and good to see Steven Stamkos back on the ice. He had been injured the last few years, hadn't gotten a lot of ice time, and he was holding that cup up very proudly. Kucherov back from his injury, and Victor Hedman, a superstar in the making. Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning win the series 4-1. Training camp starts in 3 months. If you think you haven't seen enough of Barry Melrose, you're going to get a whole lot of Barry Melrose in the fall. There's no doubt about that.
Best hair in hockey.
Yeah, that'll be good for that. By the way, Barry Melrose coached the LA Kings team in 1993, the last time that a Canadian team went to the Stanley Cup. The LA Kings that year lost to the Montreal Canadiens. I think Patrick Waugh was the goalie for the Montreal Canadiens in '93, if I remember right. I could be. I think I'm right on that. I think it was Patrick Waugh,
right.
Hall of Fame goaltender. So anyway, so good for the Montreal Canadiens. It's good to see them come back because they were not expected to do much going into the season. And not only did they make the playoffs as a 4 seed in their division, in their Canadian division, they were able to get by Toronto, and they were able to get by Winnipeg and get to the next level, to the Stanley Cup final. So good for them as we congratulate the Tampa Bay Lightning on a Stanley Cup victory. All right. Worldwide famous unsponsored picks coming up after this segment. Make the Money and Run podcast every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Little tidbits during the week too. Don't forget the social media posts as well. We'll have all the picks for you coming up in 30 seconds as we wind down another week of Make the Money and Run. Vasu Vaddiparty, Charlie O here. Thanks for joining us. And YouTube Live. Again, you can download and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. We'll see you in 30 seconds. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast, Friday, July 9th, 2021, the last weekend of Major League Baseball before we get to the All-Star break. Very interesting scenarios taking place in Major League Baseball. The Red Sox, second best record in the American League, lead the American League East. The White Sox have a big lead over the Indians, and the Houston Astros have a 4.5-game lead over the Oakland A's. The National League, the Mets have a 5-game lead on the Phillies. Atlanta and Washington are 6 back. Those are loss column standings, not actual games behind. And then Miami, last place there in the Central. Milwaukee's kind of rattled off 7 out of 10. They have their second game of the series against Cincinnati tonight. They're 7 up on Cincinnati. The Cubs are 9.5 back, 1-9 in their last 10. St. Louis 9.5 back. Cubs Cardinals going about 20 minutes for their annual rivalry series right before the All-Star break. And the Giants have a 1-game lead over the Dodgers, 2 up in the loss column. San Diego on the miraculous win last night is 4 back in the loss column. 4 back in games behind, 6 back in the loss column. And then Colorado and Arizona bring up the rear. So we'll have a full preview of Home Run Derby, second half of the season, and we'll review the first half of the season, maybe give out some awards on Monday, 3 o'clock Eastern on Facebook and on YouTube Live as well, too. Thanks to everybody for joining us. David Andrews, Frank O'Neill, appreciate you on Facebook. If you missed the earlier conversation and you're all into the NFL, which is what we all are into, had a conversation with 49ers beat writer Matt Mayoko of NBC Sports Bay Area. It's uploaded on all the social media pages we have. Check it out. Really good information on the NFC West. We're attempting to get some NFC North and NFC South and NFC East guys. We're trying to get everybody, at least one guy from every division, Charlie, to talk NFL football with us as we approach training camp in 3 weeks. And of course, the NBA Phoenix Suns have a 2-0 series lead over Milwaukee and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Game 3 will be Sunday night in Milwaukee. Milwaukee a 4-point favorite, 222 the total. Game 3 and Game 4 in Milwaukee. And then, of course, the Stanley Cup, Tampa Bay Lightning, back-to-back champions. They win their game 1-0 on Wednesday, win that series over Montreal 4-1. All right, that's a pretty good recap right there. All right, now worldwide famous unsponsored picks, yet to be sponsored, but we're hot right now, except for that Washington game. I'm going pretty good right now, so that'll stick in my craw for a little bit. I guess now we've got an All-Star break. I'll probably have to think about it a little bit more. All right, Charlie, with that being said, fire away with your picks.
By the way, before I go to my picks, Patrick Waugh was in goal in 93 for the Canadiens. So you were correct on that, or the Habs, as I prefer to call them.
Well,
that's a long story. I'm not even going to explain to you why they're called that, but they are the Habs as well. My picks, I'm going to go with the White Sox minus 140 versus Baltimore. That's not a big reach there. Keuchel on the mound tonight. He's 6-3, 4.48 ERA going up against Lopez, who was 2-11 with a 6.02 ERA. You do the math. It's a good bet. Okay, there you go. And then I've got Oakland minus 135 going up against Texas. Irvin on the mound. He's 6-7, 3.56 ERA. Lyles is going for the Rangers. He's 4-5, 4.98 ERA. I'm a little nervous on this one. I have to tell you, I'm a little nervous, Nelly, just because Texas always plays Oakland tough. But I'm going to go with the A's. The A's are kind of riding a little high right now. They've got Olsen going to the All-Star game. I'm gonna roll with them and see how it goes. My other two bets right now, and I want you to watch for the update on this because I'll update this on Sunday based on injuries or anything else that comes up. But right now, my pick for Sunday on the NBA is in that Phoenix-Milwaukee game. I am going to take Milwaukee +4. I believe that Milwaukee, first of all, this is not going to be a sweep, folks. No sweep. And my lean is that Milwaukee will get right back in Deer City and that they will win that. My belief is they will win the game, certainly covering the 4 points. 4 +4 for them is a good bet. And then on UFC in the Poirier Conor fight, my boy McGregor. I love
him. No go.
I love him. Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what? Too many commercials, too much Irish whiskey, too much bravado. Down goes Connor. I'm sorry, man. It's time to retire and sell whiskey and sell clothes and tattoos and whatever else you're going to do. But this is it, baby. Boom, down he goes.
Is that him that does those commercials for the whiskey on the proper number 12 or whatever that whiskey's called?
Oh yeah, that's his company.
Oh, that's his company?
Oh yeah, that's
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's his company. And you know what? I've had it. Being Irish, of course, I love it. And so I bought some just for kicks and giggles. I'm a Jameson's guy, because I'm a good Irishman. And I bought some just for kicks and giggles, just to try it. And you know what? It ain't bad.
Yeah. All right.
So I get some every once in a while just for fun. I like it for one thing because they actually use a cork, which I kind of like. So there you go.
Interesting take. I did not know that was his company, but I do recognize him and see him on all the commercials. He's the one For those that don't know, he's the one that goes ding, ding all the time in those commercials. It drives me batty, but that's not either here nor there for me.
And
So
the implication is the whiskey that goes down. Of course, the implication is that's a glass of Jameson that goes down.
Gotcha. Charlie O again, the White Sox with Keuchel tonight against Baltimore. The Oakland A's with Cole Irvin against the Texas Rangers. Rangers 5-5 in their last 10. Looking for a lot of trade pieces here for Joey Gallo. By the way, Joey Gallo, Chris Bryant, and Kyle Gibson and Craig Kimbrell, all guys to be looked for over the trading block the next few weeks. And then Phoenix +4 on Sunday with the caveat that we'll have the updates between now and Sunday of everything going on. And then Poirier in the fight, the UFC fight tomorrow night, 134. He's favored by – I'm not a big UFC guy, so I stay away from that stuff. And every time I order something like that on pay-per-view, it ends up costing me $50 for something that I ended up not wanting anyway. So I think I'll use that $50. I think I'll end up using that $50 for something else. All right, so those are Charlie's picks for the weekend. Again, we'll have updates over the weekend as well, too. In about 20 minutes, the Cardinals will go up against the Cubs, game 1 of their 3-game series. They hate each other. Cubs 1-9 in their last 10. Kyle Hendricks has had the best year of the Cubs starting pitchers, but he struggled as well, too. Wade LeBlanc, haven't heard that name in a while. Wade LeBlanc, the crafty left-hander, going for the Cardinals. They are 9.5 back, tied with the Cubs for third in the division, behind the Milwaukee Brewers, who are surprisingly running away with this division, hitting about 215 as a team, is Milwaukee. But they've got really good pitching. But St. Louis, +136 tonight with Wade LeBlanc today in about 20 minutes. Wade LeBlanc against Kyle Hendricks, going with the Cardinals to take game 1 of this series. Of course, game 2 you can catch on Fox, depending on where you live. Phillies, Red Sox, Astros, Yankees, and then A's, Rangers. The other games on Fox as well, too. Speaking of those Red Sox, I'm going to go with Garrett Richards. He's had a surprisingly good year for the Boston Red Sox. Best team in the American League. He gives up a few runs, but Philadelphia, we know about their bullpen. We know about their starting pitching. Vince Velasquez has had some good starts, and they kind of reinserted him. Joe Girardi did back into the rotation at the beginning of the year. By the way, Joe Girardi, in case you've forgotten, you do not have Mariano Rivera in your bullpen anymore. Just remember that when you make bullpen changes, okay? Because clearly you think somebody's out there that's going to get you 25th, 26th, and 27th out, and that is a lot more shaky than it was with number 42 in those pinstripes for all those years that you caught him and ended up managing him. So be careful with that. 125 for Boston and Garrett Richards tonight. Alex Manoah, if you haven't seen him pitch for the Toronto Blue Jays, they have some success in Tampa Bay when they go down to St. Petersburg and play them. And those bats are hot right now for Toronto with Guerrero, Bichette, Biggio, all those guys. Teoscar Hernandez is an all-star. Marcus Semien is an all-star for Toronto for the first time after years being here with Oakland. They've got bats on that team, and Alex Manoah has shut down the opposition. He's a rookie with the Toronto Blue Jays. He's going up against Shane McClanahan, who's been kind of off and on. +117 for Toronto tonight. And then I also am going to go with Phoenix on Sunday, +4 against the Milwaukee Bucks. I think that Phoenix is on a roll right now. Defensively, they're really good. They are just shutting teams down. Middleton and Holiday can't shoot. And a lot of that is on them, but a lot of it is also on the Phoenix Suns defense. And I was really impressed with how Mikal Bridges showed up yesterday. Jay Crowder showed up yesterday. Ayton didn't have a good game, so they didn't have to rely on him. Booker being Booker, and Chris Paul, even with those silly turnovers toward the end of the game, he ended up having 6 turnovers. That's a lot for Chris Paul, considering the veteran leadership he's had. But right now, Monty Williams and the Phoenix Suns rolling. Why not take them at +4? Milwaukee might win the game, but if it's anything like the first 2 games, it's going to be a close game, or Phoenix will pull away like they've done in the first 2 games. All right, any final word, Charlie, in the last 10 seconds here?
Hey, have a great weekend. Stay cool. 109 here today.
109 in Sacramento. It's pretty warm down here in San Jose, too. All right, make the money and run every Monday at 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Pacific. Thursdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And then today, Friday, 1 Eastern and 10 a.m. Pacific on Facebook and YouTube Live. If you miss any of it, including our pick segment, download, subscribe, rate, and review anywhere you get your podcasts. All right, have a great weekend, everybody. Good luck with your games. We'll review all the baseball on Monday for the first half of the season, preview the All-Star Home Run Derby and the game itself, and we will talk about all that to go, and we'll have Game 3 of the NBA as well. Have a great weekend, everybody. Vasu Vaddiparty, Charlie O for the Make the Money and Run podcast for July 9th, 2021. See you soon.